Hey, this is Gary Mitchell. This is Gary on manufacturing, and it's still going along. I've been doing this for many years now. And a few thoughts on the future directions of what's happening in this part of the industry that I've been covering a long time. A few thoughts on some new things coming up, and some interesting stuff happening in the world of technology. I'd like to take a moment here at the beginning of this podcast to thank my longtime sponsor, a company that's still doing well as it transitions to new management and some new exciting stuff with their technology. Podcast is brought to you with the support of Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, and a mobile-first flexibility and an intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. The Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. Now you can have all the power of Ignition with the convenience of the cloud. Ignition Cloud Edition makes it easy to add the power of the cloud to your Ignition architectures, extend and hybridize your enterprise operations, leverage elastic architectures that instantly scales up or down, and securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted cloud platforms, all on a pay-as-you-go plan. Still innovating, still going well. Thank you very much to Inductive Automation. Uh, I'm not ad-libbing this exactly. I've thought about it a long time, but I have no notes for a change. I was thinking about a couple of things. One, Apple made some big announcements today. The long anticipated, we knew something was coming, and it's a what they're calling mixed reality. We've been talking about AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual reality, for a long time. Virtual reality has had kind of a mixed thing that closes you completely off your vision, and all you see is kind of like a little movie theater in front of your eyes. And a lot of people have had trouble. I don't know a lot, being quarter, half, don't know what it is. Have some trouble with motion sickness with that. Seems to be mostly usable for gaming. I have tried it on for simulation and training, like you hire a new operator or maintenance tech, and you want them to learn the layout of your refinery, and you can, use your digital twin or 3D video or whatever you have and put it in the system, and people can walk around through the refinery or whatever facility you have and get training on how to locate a valve, turn it off, how to locate some other part or whatever. Doesn't really replace, but it's getting to where I remember talking to one of the leaders of changing everything to computerized automation, saying, "Oh, what we missed by putting all the operators in concrete houses was that they no longer walk around in the plant and they get the smells and the sounds and the feels of things going on out there, and it is a loss because everything is now on a digital screen. So VR would just bring that digital screen to you. I've tried some on. Then there's augmented reality. Those are typically like the Microsoft glasses. Google had Google Glass for a while, but it never took off. But then Google's not really a consumer products company; they're an advertising company. And I suppose if they could have put ads in their glasses, then they'd have been okay. But the new Apple device, I heard a lot about it through the rumor mills, and then a little bit about it how they announced it today, June 5th, when I'm recording this. And and they're trying to do some of the stuff probably better than I had with the Microsoft HoloLens, and companies like Rockwell and Beckhoff and some other people had those on, and I could, use my fingers to pinch and zoom and turn on motors, turn off motors, and observe statistics on the robot as the robot is moving and palletizing or doing whatever the heck it's programmed to do. Uh, so this could be, Cal Newport is interesting. He's a, PhD in computer science and does a number of things, including riffing off of his book, Deep Work. uh, that thinks that the Apple thing will eventually open up a thing where you can see multiple screens. Like not me, I just like one computer, but some people have their laptop and they hook it up to maybe three different monitors and they can scan like on the Starship Enterprise or something and do that. Uh, and more power to them. Some people are power users and they can use all that, and it's good. Maybe that will work. Don't know where it's going to go. It's going to require a lot of software to really make it usable. And the software is going to require applications. You don't write software in a void, you write software to solve a problem. So, what problem is this going to solve? I don't know, but I think it'll be interesting to find out what that is. And since it's Apple, they will divert some attention from all the stuff going on with ChatGPT, and I think we're filtering through the chat GPT hype and getting into it could be quite useful. I've used it very slight amount so far for research. It's getting better. Initially, you couldn't trust anything it gave you because it just searches out and it just gives you in natural language uh, some, synopsis of what it sees out on the web, which could be totally wrong. But then an awful lot of stuff, what you see on the web is totally wrong. You really need to trust your source, which I hope I am one of those trusted sources. So taking a look at all that, I was also looking at the situation in the market that I've been in for a long time. I was a practitioner in automation and control and got a job as an editor. I wondered, sitting there bored with what I was doing, wondering if I could make money writing. And lo and behold, yes, you can, if it's the right kind of thing. And so I was fortunate to get a job as a senior editor at Control Engineering Magazine. And even though control engineering was, I went to my first conference and a guy says, "Oh, I know control engineering. It reads like a catalog." And I went, "Ouch." But that was the theory was you wrote about advertisers and basically every article was supposed to be kind of a roundup of, so we do an HMI article and then we write about the top 10 companies. Hopefully they were all advertisers. I guess, I don't know. I wasn't in sales at that point, but anyway, and that was what we did back there and I tried to branch us and another editor by the name of Dave Harold tried to branch us out a little bit into a little more technical stuff. I'll never forget writing about programming some embedded stuff in C. And I did a sample C program and the editors tried to, proofreading editors tried to rewrite it into English. And I wrote back and said, no, 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 no. This is a sample of a program written in C. You have to leave it exactly the way I put it in. And it's like, oh, geez, what have I gotten into? But anyway, because of the people I met, I was one of the co-founders of Automation World. And back in those days, this was from 98 to 2007 or so. Um, from 98, 99, we could make a lot of money at control engineering. And then the advertising went down in that market. In automation world, it was structured such that we could make some pretty decent money. And it was mostly on ads, but we got early into webcasts, or now they're called webinars. And we got and early on into email newsletters. And those made some pretty decent money for quite a while, but that's all, there's I was trying to help a magazine 2012, 2013 timeframe. And even by then, the amount of money we could get on advertising on newsletters was not there anymore. You're still getting a lot of newsletters, probably. I'm trying to unsubscribe from a ton of them. And it just seems like they just keep coming back up like that toy when I was a kid that you hit it and it was weighted at the bottom and it would keep popping back up and you keep hitting it and it pop back up. But anyway, so the newsletter. So if you look at what's going on, I've always for a long, long time looked at the health of the trade magazines covering a particular market. I was early in IT a long time ago in the late 70s through the 80s. And I got a lot of the IT, InfoWorld and a number of IT magazines. And later on, about 10 years ago or a little less, maybe 7 years ago, I met some of those writers. All those magazines are history. They're all gone. And some of the writers I read are like me, independent bloggers, independent writers, and so on, because that's all gone. And then there were the PC magazines. Holy cow, PC magazine itself was huge, and there were a whole lot of those things, both for PC and Mac. And the magazines, Byte, holy cow, Byte was so great. I learned so much computer application knowledge and technical knowledge out of Byte magazine. And it first went digital and then disappeared because who reads magazines digitally? Not I, amongst others. And so so where are you going to go with that? There's still some Mac stuff because there's some interest there's still an Apple community, like today's WWDC announcement, which was probably huge. And so there's still a market around Apple, but and all that's not necessarily, well, it is computing, but it's a lot more consumer oriented stuff. So that's all happening. So you look at that market, and those magazines all went eventually digital and then withered mostly away. There's still some websites out there, and there's some cool websites you can go to, but they're nothing like the heyday of personal computing, which is pretty much history. And now we, look at the market I've served. I was a practitioner for maybe 10 years, maybe longer, and then was an editor at Control Engineering for a while, and altogether 25 years covering either Control Engineering, Automation World, or with the Manufacturing Connection. And look at what's happened. All the magazines are consolidating now in ownership, and Info Industry Week became Industry Week only monthly, and then it became Industry Week only quarterly, and now that has gone only digital. And if you look at the number of ads at Control Design, Control Engineering, Automation World, there just aren't very many ads anymore. The market is just not thriving in that regard as far as growth like it used to. It's not a hot market. So if we take a look at some of the other things going on, like my sponsor, Inductive Automation, who don't pay me to say this stuff, just read their ad, but and keep some kind of intelligence going. Anyway, they're still going good. They're a software company, and people need that, and the market they're serving, they don't. It used to be a really hot, very competitive market, and what people are telling me is that not so much. I mean, not that they're not doing good, but the competitors are not as thriving as once were. Wonderware was really hot and everybody knew about Wonderware. And then as part of Invensys, as part of Aviva. And now Aviva's part of Schneider Electric. And who knows? And through all that, it kind of loses its pizzazz. Rockwell still has software, but you can get it, but you don't read about it much. You don't even get it promoted much from Rockwell, as far as the same market as inductive automation is. And the other one used to be Intolution, which was bought by Emerson and then sold to GE, and now it's part of GE Digital. And that got rolled into, let's see if I get my names right, Prophecy. Yeah, Prophecy. But I lose track of GE's names. But yeah, they still exist, and they're still there, and there's still all those other competitors, but it's not as thriving and hot, and there's not like the really interesting advertising going on there used to be in the battles amongst all of them. And if we look at the big guys, those that have consolidated, they've consolidated the market a lot. And you've got Siemens, ABB, Rockwell, Honeywell, Emerson. Yokogawa I don't cover as much anymore. Their U.S. presence is a lot less than it used to be. But anyway, the other ones, they all claim to be software companies. And you say, why would that be? Aren't they control and instrumentation companies? Well, yeah, they still are, but really, and I've been told, and I believe it, that it's a Wall Street ploy, that Wall Street rewards not high flying software companies. And so if you're Emerson, you're not an old industrial hardware company. You're a cool, hip, software company. And so, they have their name for what everybody's got their name for the new software that's going on for what was called a long time ago Enterprise Control by Foxborough. Remember them? Quite some time ago. And so they're all kind of going software, but the industry's consolidated so much, they're not taking business from each other anymore. And it's kind of like maintaining, selling more to the companies that they've been selling to, maybe branching out. Honeywell has really been trying to branch away from oil and gas. I shouldn't say away, but in addition to oil and gas, which is not going to go anywhere up anymore. And so they're doing a lot, and in fact, all of them are in hydrogen and other kinds of sustainable types of fuels and that sort of thing. So a big movement there. So anyway, to kind of wrap up into some of the things I've been interested in, when I was at university, which is a long time ago now, I read an essay. In fact, I read a lot of stuff about the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. So this takes us back into kind of the late 1700s, but mostly the early 1800s. In the early 1800s in Europe, and then a little bit later in the United States, uh, people were, they didn't need as many farmers to feed the population because of mechanization and the agriculture industry. And so a lot of people were migrating from the farms to the cities. Read Dickens, what else do you need to read but Charles Dickens, I suppose, and into the city, and they got jobs in factories, and they were cruddy jobs, and they worked long hours, and they exploited women, they exploited kids. Manufacturing jobs were terrible, and there was a lot of the philosophers were looking at that. And so Karl Marx, and forgive me, don't go off the deep end on Karl Marx, but he wrote an early essay which influenced me, and the theme was a human being's alienation from their work. Before the Industrial Revolution, if you were a craftsman, you were like a blacksmith or something, you worked in your craft shop and you built things, and you built useful things for the people in your community and so on. And maybe you did it out of iron, maybe you did it out of other things. There were craft shops in weaving and textiles and so on, a lot of different things. But what we did was we mechanized all that stuff, and we took people out of their craft shops to do mass production. And then we took those jobs, and you were no longer a craftsman, where that product was part of you. You put your soul into that. You built that thing up, and that was cool, and that was my thing. Um, Actually, I grew up with people who were like that, who were craftsmen, and maybe they worked on cars at the time. But that's another issue. But anyway, so there was a lot of theory about this, and it's gone on for quite some time. It's actually the genesis of the whole Industry 4.0, to say, as we went through quite a few years. But you're alienated from your work, you're put in this factory, and so on, and now work is crap. And and then later on in the 80s, I read a book by oh shoot, I think it was Peoria and Waterman. I've got that book laying somewhere. Second Industrial Divide, and they were thinking that we were getting to a point by the 80s where we could move away from this automation of taking our jobs and making them so rote, and get back toward this idea of a craftsman kind of thing, where the tools were there. We can take away some of the work that was really bad and allow people to be more creative and more craftsman-like. Well, I don't know if that really exactly happened the way they kind of predicted. Along came some other people out at MIT and Harvard writing some similar things with predictions. We got Industry 4.0, which was talking about moving from just physical and some digital and some what they called cyber physical systems, but that would upscale the jobs from, once again, more toward craftsmanship, different kind, more cerebral, more that kind of thing. But then, so we started looking at it, and we still have a lot of these lower paid rote manufacturing jobs, where you may not feel like the end product is part of you. Although when I got out of grad school and got my first job at a company called Airstream, travel trailers and motorhomes eventually, I'll tell you, the people at Airstream, they were proud of those Airstream trailers, and they were the best RV at the time. And for all I know, they still are. I don't RV, but we did, even though my job was this piece of it, you really felt like it was a piece of something. And you wonder if we are eventually going to get around to that. So I'm looking at the nature of work and putting together all this stuff, and maybe eventually writing that master's thesis that I never did on that whole topic of work and alienation and that sort of thing, and where we're going that way. A lot of stuff happening in that. There's a lot of things. A lot of the software enables some of that kind of thing. So we'll see. I'll be writing a lot more of that, because the only other thing I'm seeing anymore are all the poor cybersecurity companies are scrambling to find ways to make money. A lot of consolidation there too. There's some interesting stuff going on, and then there's just a lot of Gary. president of this company, CEO of this company, has got a comment on the latest cyber breach. And I'm glad they do, but that's not my area of expertise. So anyway, some rambling thoughts a little bit about the market and what's going on there. And maybe what we need to start thinking about is how we structure work and how we structure our own thought work, how we structure work for the people working in these factories, and maybe we can get back to a craftsmanship kind of thing where people feel like they've got a little soul in their work, and that would be way cool. So anyway, some thoughts on an industrial take on some things that other people like Seth Godin are thinking about, and since my whole life has been, or almost has been, revolved around manufacturing, that's just where I think about it. Any thoughts? Feel free to comment. Always like a good discussion where people tell me things that I need to know, things I missed or things I could add to. That would be way cool. Anyway, this podcast is brought to you with the support of Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition. Act with innovative features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, and mobile-first flexibility, and an intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. For that matter, the all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. And now you can have all the power of Ignition with the convenience of the cloud. Ignition Cloud Edition makes it easy to add the power of the cloud to your Ignition architectures. Extend and hybridize your enterprise operations, leverage elastic architecture that instantly scales up or down, and securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted cloud platforms, all on a pay-as-you-go plan. My thanks to Inductive Automation, and my thanks to you for listening to this and checking me out at themanufacturingconnection.com. Thanks. This is Gary. Hey, go out. Be kind today.